Hello, and welcome to Body Language by EmbodyYou. I'm Annette Lane, and I'm so glad you're here. This show is where we take a step back from the shoulds and the should nots of social media and really learn what your body is saying and how to speak its language. We're going to dive into topics like gut health, birth control, cycle health, and give you real-world, honest examples of what these actually might mean to you. My goal is to create a space that you can come back to whenever you need a reset or just don't know how to go forward. New episodes will be released weekly, and I cannot wait to take you along with this journey. Let's get started. All right, my girl, here is the highly requested motivation versus discipline episode because I know my girlies are trying to figure out, Annette, what's the difference? How do I have one if I don't have the other? Most of the time it's like, where do I find motivation? Or when should I be disciplined and when should I give myself grace? And there's so many different areas that you're probably like, okay, I ride a fine line of having motivation versus having discipline and not knowing, how much is too much or what that really should look like, especially for women. So today I'm going to give you the step-by-step of what the difference is, how you guys are going to figure it out, and where to really put this into action in your life. So let's get started. This episode's for basically anyone. There's really no one that I don't think could benefit from this knowledge. So we're going to get right into things. And what I want to just start off by saying is that where most people fail is that they give up when motivation runs out. So motivation can come from a multitude of different places, right? A lot of them tend to be external. So you have a vacation coming up, or you just broke up with your boyfriend, or you have, this prom coming up, or your wedding, you're getting married, or you're trying to get pregnant. There's a million different reasons that you might be motivated to do something. And so what motivation is really good for is short-term success, right? It's the reason you might get going, or it's the reasons why girls sign up for our program, right? They're like, oh my gosh, I'm so motivated. I'm ready to get my summer body. Like, let's roll. Well, newsflash, we're all human and we're going to hit points where we're not motivated. And something I just learned from a dear mentor and friend of mine, Brittany, is the idea of like the 2-2-2. So day 2, week 2, month 2. And what happens with motivation as these times come up. And I see this so often with girls in our program. They're so consistent, right? They're like, day 1, I'm ready to roll. Day 2, something switches. It's like, oh gosh, I have to do it all over again. Week 1, it's like, I'm so good Monday through Friday. Someone asked me to do something, on the weekend, but okay, I'm just not going to do it. Like I'm not going to go out and get the beers and the wings and everything because I'm trying to look and feel good for this certain date and I want to lock in on myself. Well, it's super easy to do that week 1. Well, then when week 2 comes around and weekend 2, it's like, okay, I give up. Like I can't keep avoiding these situations. I want to go, and we start to give up. Same thing with month 2. We're super good for a month, and then it's like something comes up and we fall off. This is something that we talked about in a ton of episodes because I see it every single day with our clients. I see it all the time with girls who are like, Annette, I'm motivated, I'm ready to roll. And then either they start to go silent, they start missing check-ins, and we're like, hey, us again. We know you're human. Like, it's normal. We know what's happening. You don't need to be afraid of it. It's literally just the fact that motivation left, right? Motivation left, and that's what's going to happen. But now this is where we insert discipline. And that's where long-term success comes from, is when you are a disciplined person. And a really good example of this is just the way you hold yourself accountable to your goals. So I, do this check-in with myself where I'm like, okay, Annette, are you actually tired, or like, are you actually sick, or do you just not want to go to the gym? And if it's a scenario where I'm like, okay, I've gotten enough sleep, like I'm not sick, I just don't really want to go to the gym, I'm going to get my butt up and go, right? 9 times out of 10, it's doing the harder thing than doing what might be easier or give us more satisfaction in the moment. We want to think about what future us will think. That is a super solid frame of reference to move through your days with is, okay, well, what would I feel in 5 minutes or 5 hours or 5 days from now? What am I going to be proud that I did? And most of the time it's making the decision that you don't really want to make in the moment. This is exactly what happened with our girl Izzy, who is now down over 30 pounds in our program. And she has never been so consistent in the gym. And first part of it, I want to say it's because you have she has a plan. She isn't just going to the gym willy-nilly and saying, okay, I'm going to go and try this leg day that I found on TikTok and hopefully my glutes grow overnight and I have a big butt by the morning. Doesn't really happen that way, right? So we tend to give up and we start to second guess, well, if I even do this, is it going to make a difference? Is it even going to matter? And we start talking ourselves out of it versus obviously in the EmbodyYou program, we give them completely customized nutrition, workouts, everything so that they start checking the boxes because they know the science is there. Like we built these out where if you do them, you will see results. Point blank, period. You will. So that gives you that motivation and that discipline and that consistency where you're like, I know if I check this box, something's going to happen, something that I really want. And once you start seeing those results, you get hungry for more and you keep going. And then you're like, whoa, I've never been this consistent. And that was Izzy. She was like, I don't think there's been a time in my life where I've gone to the gym for like over a month or two at a time and then not fallen off. And she's been in EmbodyYou for about 8 or 9 months now and has been so consistent. It doesn't mean she's perfect. Doesn't mean she hasn't missed a workout, but she always comes back to herself. And she doesn't say, well, because I missed a workout last week, I'm starting at square one and my body just hit the reset button. It absolutely didn't. She built so much trust in her own body by her consistency that her body doesn't just like wipe the slate clean and say, okay, you missed your workout, girl. Well, now you just gained all 30 pounds that you lost back and we're going to start over. Your body doesn't do that, right? And so while motivation is really great, a lot of the times it's influenced by our emotions, right? And we are motivated by certain things, or we're motivated because we saw an inspirational video, or we went and watched a podcast that made us like ready to roll, and then that our emotion changes, and that's normal. We're humans. Our emotions are meant to change. But when they do, we tend to let our actions slip with them. And the biggest thing is to realize you don't follow your mood, you follow a plan, right? And we tell our girls that all the time. Kenna, one of my favorite examples, she's always like, well, I'm going to stick to the plan, not my mood. She'll get off 12-hour work shifts. She's a nurse, night shift, rotating days and nights, and she'll go get her workout in because she's like, well, I can do it. I'm going to do it. I stick to the plan, not my mood. And she's over 80 pounds down in total and just like completely rebranded her entire life. Beyond proud of that one. She's really a true testament to the difference between motivation and discipline because she was really motivated when she started the program, but motivation has not gotten her 80 pounds down, right? It was discipline and it was saying, well, I told myself I'm going to do it, so I'm going to do it. So we have motivation. And then on the other hand, we have discipline, which discipline is a skill. It's a skill built through consistently doing things that you really didn't want to do in the moment, but you did them and you proved to your body, I've done it before, I can do it again. I literally had a call earlier today with a girl that used to be in the EmbodyYou program. She just recently did one of our challenges. And she's at a spot where she's like, I'm living it, right? Like I'm doing what I need to do. I'm checking the boxes. She's really tapping into the lifestyle. And she told me, she was like, yeah, my classes just started again. I've been really busy, but I've done it before and I know I can do it again. And I'm like, Sam, you don't even understand what that thought is doing for your progress and just for your subconscious mind. Your mind literally hears that and it's like, right, so we're going to do it. If you're like, I can't do it because I have school and I have class and I work 40 hours a week, which she does, then you're not going to get there. You will never get there if you're truly telling your subconscious mind, yeah, I can't do it. But instead, she has this thought process, which she built herself. It's a skill, right? But she's like, I've done it before. I can do it again. Another big reason why discipline is so important over motivation is because motivation, yes, it's fleeting, like with the emotions that pass, but also when we're specifically motivated by something outside of ourselves, whether it be our wedding date or that Mexico trip or whatever it might be, we put an end date on our goal, right? We're like, okay, I want to get to this date. And then after that, we'll see what happens. And we don't focus on building a lifestyle of repeated habit. We're just like, okay, I'm going to get a bikini body by this day. I don't care what it takes to get there. I'm going to do the cleanses. I'm going to stop eating. I'm going to do crazy cardio, whatever it takes. When I get back from my trip, who really cares? It's over. That's why you keep yo-yoing and falling back and forth, where instead, if you're like, okay, I'm going to create this lifestyle over choices and habits that I choose every single day, then you don't have to just say, well, when the Mexico trip is over, then I'm back at square one. You come back and you're like, wait, I still can just choose myself. It's fine that I just went on vacation or I had my wedding and my honeymoon and I didn't work out for 2 weeks. Boo hoo. I'm just going to keep going because that's the life I live. And you give yourself that non-negotiable. It's like, when did we start deciding that you choose to be healthy, right? When did that become a choice? Health should have always been a part of all of our lives, right? It's the biggest thing we have, right? We don't have anything without our health. You want the nice car, you want the nice house, you want the new job. You can't have it if you're not healthy. You can't have it if you're not here. You can't have it if you're spending money on hospital bills or weight loss injections or anything like that truly aren't going to bring you where you want to be. If you can innately find health and that lifestyle again, you start to live your dream. You're like getting the new job and things are coming to you and you're feeling abundant. You're showing up better and you're living a really happy life. And that's what we have all of our girls do, is get to a spot where they're like, I'm happy at the same time as I am healthy. That's important, because if you are healthy and maybe you have the objective body, but you're not happy, is it really worth it? So, okay, Annette, I get the difference. I know, they can work in tandem. My motivation is what can spark my journey. My discipline is what we can use to take me where I want to go, right? But how do I start? Where do I start? How do I build it? Start small. I give every single girl that joins our program this, because it's really overwhelming when you're like, okay, I want to rebrand everything overnight. I want to change everything while I have a full-time job, or I'm going to school, or I'm a mom, or I'm planning a wedding. It's not realistic to try to rebrand everything overnight. So we start small. What's one thing that you can do that is going to get you to your end goal, right? That's going to keep moving the needle forward in your journey. And once you start doing that and you're like, no, this is a non-negotiable, you keep doing it. A list that I actually recently also learned about from Brittany, she's clearly very influential on me, is what's called a power list, where you can give yourself 3 to 5 is a really good place to start, even 3 non-negotiables every single day of what you do every single day to win the day, right? Even on the days when you are on empty, when you have nothing left to give, what are 3 things that you can do and you will still do? And they can be personally, they can be spiritually, they can be with your job, professionally, they can be anything you want. So for example, I make my bed every day, no matter what. No matter if I wake up at 6 a.m. or noon, right? No matter what's happening to me, if I'm sick or not, if I get up and I'm ready for my day, I make my bed. Maybe you're someone who wants to read, 10 pages of a self-help book or more nonfiction, or things that are going to help you actually progress and learn. And maybe you want to learn a new skill. That's a really great one. Maybe you want to send out 3 meaningful messages to people in your life, and that's something that will help you feel your best. Do that every single day. And the goal here is to not miss more than 2 days in a row. So if there's a day that you just don't get it in, that's okay. But don't miss 2 days in a row, right? And just get right back on it. And that starts to teach your body, okay, these are the things that I do, non-negotiables. We have non-negotiables in so many areas, right? You should have them in your friendships, in your relationships, with yourself, with your job. There are things that matter to you. You have values. You should have those same standards for yourself, right? If you would hold your friend up to a certain standard of who you want to surround yourself with, or your boyfriend or your husband, of this is what I need and what I want, and if I don't get that, this isn't for me, you should have the exact same standards for yourself, right? We let ourselves slip, and that's where we start to feel that disappointment or resentment towards health and wellness, where if we really think about it, we're like, okay, I just need to have the same discipline and standards that I would for someone else for myself. So start with those things. Make a little power list. Make a list of 3 things right now that you want to do every single day that will make you feel like your best self, right? And even if nothing else goes right, you can still control those 3 things every single day. Start there. That's a really great way to build discipline over time. Even if it sucks, at the end of the day, you're going to be like, I still did it. And you're going to start to build that confidence in yourself. And you're going to be like, I've done it once. I can do it again. Just like we talked about with Sam at the beginning. She went through our program, stuck to the Embody method, and was like, wow, once I did this once, I can do it again. And she's living that. Another really great concept that one of our coaches, Keitha, talks a lot about is the difference between having rhythms and having a routine. And it completely depends on the person you are. Maybe you are someone who's like, Annette, I'm super type A. I like my schedule. I like my routine. And maybe you're someone who's like, routines give me anxiety. They just feel like a lot of pressure. I don't want that. It's okay to be one way or the other, right? So kind of check in with yourself, okay, am I someone who's maybe more type A and I want a routine? And routines are pretty black and white, right? It's I do this and then I do that and then I do this. And you follow the same structure. It helps people that need that structure, or else they feel out of control, overwhelmed, overstimulated, all of those things. Or if you're not very routine oriented and you want to be more of a rhythm person, this is more like cyclical, right? It kind of plays along with your mood or what you feel like you need. So, like 4 times a week, I try to do my red light therapy mask. And sometimes I'm so exhausted. I don't even want to do it. And that's okay. I don't give myself crap for not doing it, right? I just follow my rhythm. And I'm like, if that doesn't serve me right now and having it on my face is just like claustrophobia and I don't think that that's going to relax me right now, then I'm not going to do it, right? If you're someone who takes a bath every day because that relaxes you, but there's a day where it's not going to, it's okay to follow the rhythm. And it's okay to be like, all right, we're just going to shower, right? And just not put pressure on myself to follow this strict routine if it's not going to serve me, because there's a very fine line between routines being helpful and being not helpful. Because if we start to get to a spot where we feel guilty for not checking boxes or we feel guilty for missing steps of our routine, that's not the point. The point is to say, okay, I'm actually just going to give myself real tangible steps and write it out so it's not just swarming in my head and I don't even know where to start. That's the point, right? So if you can differentiate for yourself, well, am I more of a routine person? Am I more of a rhythm person? Does it depend on the day? Does it depend on my phase of my cycle? That's me, right? If I'm at the beginning of my cycle, I'm like, oh yeah, routine oriented, I'm ready to roll. Towards the end or being on my period, it's way more rhythm based, right? Some days I'm like, all right, so we're not going to wake up and go to the gym first thing because that's just not what my body needs. I'm going to scoot that to the end of the day and my routine's going to change and that's okay. So really making sure you can check in with yourself. But again, not always just saying, well, just because I'm going to start my period means that I can't do these things. Actually be honest with how you feel. Because sometimes I'm on my period and I'm like, dang girl, let's go hip thrust 500 pounds. I'm ready to roll. I could run a freaking marathon right now. And I'm ready to move, right? So it depends, right? And you don't have to just say because I'm on my period, I have to take things easy. Not the case. There's actually a lot of people that feel a lot more energized on their period, which sometimes I do. And I'm like, could life always be like this? I wish, right? So making sure you are understanding, am I more rhythm? Am I more routine? Does it depend? And just being aware of it, then you'll stop putting more pressure on yourself. So we know the difference between motivation and discipline. We know about routines versus rhythms. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about finding the balance with giving yourself grace, but also being disciplined, because like I said, there's a fine line between the two of them. And I want to go back a little bit and touch on the idea of doing things for the future you, right? We talk about it in our program, and I've talked about this in a previous episode, but we give all of our girls a task of finding who their core identity is. Who is that higher self? What does she do? What does she look like? What does she talk like? Who does she surround herself with? And then we start making moves to become her. We start doing things that she would do. So even if the you right now wouldn't get up from your bed, stop scrolling and go to the gym, hot girl, higher you would, right? She'd get her butt out of bed and be like, okay, we've had enough scrolling. I'm going to go at least walk. I'm going to go to the gym and get some steps in, or I'm going to go to the gym and do my leg day that I don't really want to do, but my higher self would do that because she's consistent, she's dedicated, and she's looking out for future me. Because how many times have you actually regretted a workout? I've never gone to the gym and been like, wow, I wish I didn't do that. You go to the gym and you're like, wow, I feel so great. Like, I'm so glad I did that. Even though I didn't want to, I'm so glad I went. We have girls say that like every single day in our group chat. They're like, I didn't want to go today, but I did. And I'm so proud of myself. And I'm so glad I did. That little boost of confidence is you're going to land there the next time you're in the same position where you don't want to go. And you're going to be like, well, I know how I felt the last time after I did. I was so happy, felt so good. So I'm going to do it again. And then you just keep building on that. And that evidence keeps piling. And then one day you look back at where you came from and you're like, wow, I actually am becoming that higher self. I am becoming that higher person. And it starts with those little teeny tiny choices that we think don't really matter, but they do. You're subconsciously telling yourself it's okay to give up. It's okay to procrastinate today or to be half-assed today, right? It's okay to not put your best foot forward or to let things slip. And it's not, right? It's not okay to hold those lower standards. Yes, it might depend on your circumstances, but 9 times out of 10, we don't want to teach our subconscious that. We want to be like, wait, I know I can trust myself that I'm going to go do it. Even if my mind and my body are like, no, I just want to relax. I know I'm stronger than that. And I have that willpower. And when you keep creating that for yourself and making those tougher decisions, you really start to step into that. And you're like, wow, I don't need to fear that because I think I'm not going to want to go tomorrow, that I'm not going to go. You're like, yeah, it might suck to get my shoes on and get out the door, but I'm going to go because I have this discipline already instilled in me because I built it over time. So riding the line of grace and discipline and saying, okay, where do I give myself grace? If you are going on vacation, you're on a work trip, you don't have access to the gym, you don't have access to all your normal nutrition things, give yourself grace. It's okay. Do the best with what you have. And that's all you can do, right? Even if your best is 20%, 20% out of 20% is 100%, right? Giving it your all, doing those 3 things on your power list that you can do and moving forward. That's all that really matters, is making sure that you are still doing things that are going to help you feel better in the long run and not make you feel like just because you're out of routine and can't be perfect, that you have to do nothing at all. That's when we fall in that all or nothing mindset and we think, okay, I didn't do my workout, nothing else matters today, I'm not going to do anything else. Instead, we're like, I'm giving myself grace because I'm out of my routine, I'm on vacation, whatever. I could still go take a walk to a coffee shop. There's a hotel gym downstairs. I could wake up 30 minutes earlier and get some steps in or get a quick little lift in. There are things that you can do, and it's okay to not have them be maybe what you would normally do when you're in your routine, but at least you're still doing something. And that's where you start to make those lifestyle changes. And you're like, I would have never done this. I literally had a time probably like a year ago by now where I was getting on a flight, it was like afternoon flight, but I had to be to the airport probably around like 9-ish. And so I got up, did my things. Then I was like, I'm going to get some steps in because I'm going to be, in the airplane all day and traveling and all of those things. I know when I get home tonight, it's going to be cold in Minnesota, all the things. So I was like, I'm going to go for a walk before my flight. I've literally never done that before. And I was like, could I have just not done it? Yes. Would it have not changed my body today? Correct. It didn't change my body overnight, but it's those compounded things that I've done over time that actually changed it over time. And it was doing that gave me so much confidence. I was like, Annette, look at you living this lifestyle. Look at you making a choice that is so beneficial for the future you. You are going to feel so much better now that you did that, instead of just being like, well, that sucks. I guess I'll just have a wash of a day today. So I challenge you to find areas of your life where you're like, where can I add more of a lifestyle element to my wellness journey? Where can I add in more steps? Or when I'm ordering from a restaurant, where can I add in more whole foods, more fruits and veggies? Where can I get more water in during the day? Where are things that aren't strictly related to going to the gym and being super perfect that I can start doing that are actually going to give me confidence? That's where discipline comes, right? You're like, okay, I'm not really motivated to go get my steps in, but I'm disciplined to know that this will help me in my future. So I'm going to go do it. And when you do it, it makes the next time you're going to do it 10 times easier because you're like, I've done it before. I can do it again. And you start to have that confidence in yourself and you don't second guess yourself anymore. You're not like, oh, I'm just not going to do it because it doesn't matter. You're like, it does matter, right? Small things compound over time. You don't see change overnight. That is tried and true wellness, right? It doesn't change overnight. But once you keep doing it and doing it, it does. And there's one spot in your journey, and I talked about the 2-2-2. There's a spot that everyone hits in our program where they're like, I'm not seeing results, nothing's changing. And we're always like, I swear this is the spot where everyone quits, right? Maybe you're a month in and you're like, I can't do it anymore. That's the spot where everyone stops, and it's right before you hit your peak, right? And after that, results take off. It's if you can just get through that little spot where you would usually give up, that's why you don't have anything that you want, right? That's why you've never seen it, because you usually give up right then. So instead of doing that, let's make a different choice. What if you keep going this time? Let's see what happens. And as soon as you keep going past that sticky spot where you usually would give up, you start seeing results. You start seeing change. And you're like, oh my God, I could have done this all along. I just kept giving up on myself because it wasn't happening on my timeline. It wasn't happening at a rate where I felt like it was worth it. So I just stopped altogether. But where did that leave me? Stressed out, uncomfortable, insecure, struggling with my confidence. It leaves you at a spot where you're not feeling your best. Even though it's uncomfortable to push past the spot of not wanting to keep going and feeling like nothing's happening, but at what cost, right? What happens if we don't do anything at all? Then are we going to be comfortable? Absolutely not. So why don't we just put our nose to the grindstone and say, I'm going to do this. I want to see what's going to happen if I do something different than I've done before. That's when it changes. And you're like, oh, see what happens when we keep showing up to the same fight that we keep losing with the same tools that we've been using, right? You keep showing up, not getting a result. You keep showing up, doing the same thing. You're still not going to get a result. We talk about this all the time with our girls of like, are you going to go on a hike? You're going to pack your backpack full of stuff. And let's say you can't get to the peak, right? You can't get to the top with what you have. You don't have enough water. You don't have enough food. You just have like rocks in your backpack. That's not going to get you there, right? Well, are you going to say, okay, I'll come back tomorrow and try again with the exact same stuff you brought before? Probably not, right? You're going to be like, okay, let's empty some of these rocks. Let's add some more water. Let's add some more food. Maybe let's have a friend come with us, double the space, right? Double the materials. Let's try that again. And you're going to show up with different tools. The same thing is with your wellness journey. If you keep showing up to the same hike, to the same battle, to the same mountain with the same supplies that you were using before that were not getting you to the top, you will still not get there. You will still be at a spot where you are coming up short, turning around, starting over, heading back to the bottom, still just as defeated, if not more, than when you started your climb, right? And that's why we keep stacking that evidence that it's not meant for me. I can't get fit. I'm never going to lose the weight because we keep showing up with the same tools. It's all restriction in a different outfit. It's all cleansing or taking things away instead of focusing on abundance and focusing on little habits like, oh my gosh, I can just do this because I want to, because it makes me feel good. There was a time this summer where my mom and I were hanging out and we were out shopping and we were like, okay, what should we get for lunch? And I was like, can we just stop at like the gas station? Because I wanted to get like a turkey stick, like a beef stick, a little protein shake, maybe some fruit, or like veggies. I didn't want to go through like a drive-through. I was like, oof, fast food does not sound good. Like I just didn't want that. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I've never had anyone ask for a quick trip for lunch, but sure, let's go. And I just did it because I wanted to. I did it because it was going to make me feel good. I know how I would have felt after the Chick-fil-A, and I didn't want to feel like that. So I made the harder decision, the less satisfying decision in the moment, which ended up being way more satisfying in the end. That is the kicker. That is the challenge I have for all of you, is to ask yourself, what would bring me closer to my goal? Even if it's not what I want, even if it doesn't fit my mood, what fits my plan best right now? I promise once you start doing that, you will see change. Things will start happening, even if they're not perfect, even if you don't have it all figured out, even if you've never done it before, do it. Because once you start doing it, you will keep doing it and you will actually see sustainable change. We've seen it in every single one of our girls that have come through our doors because they're doing something different than they've ever done. They wouldn't come to us if they've already done something like that, right? They wouldn't need the help if they've already found sustainable wellness, right? So they come to our program, we give them different tools and they find different parts of themselves. They reach different heights, right? They're like, I've never looked like this in my life. I've never been this consistent in my life. I've never felt this fit in my life, because we're actually giving them tools that are sustainable this time, that are meant for their body. They're not a TikTok trend. They're not an Instagram, what I eat in a day. They're genuine, individualized wellness programs that were actually built for them, that will give them real change. So my advice is to try something new, try something that you haven't done before, and push past your comfort zone, because we don't grow when we're comfortable, right? If you keep doing something that you're already good at, you're just going to stay good, right? If you keep doing something that you're not very good at, you're going to get better, right? Because you have to put yourself in an uncomfortable position to grow. If you stay the same, if you stay comfortable, nothing's going to change, right? You have to move out of the hometown if you really, want that change. You have to get out of that, job or that relationship that was keeping you stuck if you really want change. You have to put yourself in uncomfortable positions to actually see that growth and see that change. That's what happens, right? When you find that wellness that makes you second guess, well, I'm kind of nervous. I've had past experiences fail, but when something's really surrounded by longevity and sustainability, and you're like, okay, I'm going to try this. I know I'm going to be uncomfortable, but I know I'm going to grow and I'm going to get better. That's what really matters. So that's the deal, sister. That is the difference between motivation and discipline, and what actually matters, what's actually going to last, when to listen to your body and when to be like, girl, you're just making excuses. Because I admit, sometimes I like to disguise excuses as grace. I'm like, I'm just giving myself grace. And I'm like, Annette, come on. You're giving yourself excuses. Like, let's get up and go. There's nothing holding you back. Yeah, you're lazy. Get your butt up and let's get to the gym, right? There is a big difference between having excuses and giving yourself grace, and you just have to be honest with yourself on how to differentiate the two. So if you struggle with finding motivation, if you struggle with finding discipline, I hope this really helped, where you can see the difference between the two of them. You can find out if you're more of a routine or a rhythm type person. And you can also find something that you don't just give up on, right? You find something that you keep showing up to. And if it doesn't work, you try something else, right? You don't keep doing the same thing over and over again. It just doesn't work, right? So give yourself permission to try something new, to put yourself out of your comfort zone, to grow as an individual, because you will grow in every single other aspect of your life if you start to grow within yourself first. As always, my gut health scorecard is linked below if you want just some answers of where your current gut health lies, what's going on. I will give you some personalized feedback. It'll take 3 seconds to complete. Send this to someone you love, someone that you feel like could use this information of what motivation versus discipline is, or maybe someone who like really exhibits that in your life, who's going to listen to this and be like, yep, that's me. I'm disciplined. I've got it. Send this to them. And from the teacher in me to the teacher in all of you, thank you so much for being here with me today. I'll see you next week.